So we've been sitting here for the last 20 minutes because we're recording this on Sunday afternoon, just before noon Pacific time. And our neighbor, whose father shows up every day, I think he just does a life check to make sure he's in fact alive.
Exactly.
Was taking the opportunity to clean up all the leaves that have fallen. And so we heard him starting and stopping the leaf blower and starting and stopping the leaf blower and doing it again until I eventually walked over. I was like, hey, and this is an older guy, super duper nice guy. But if I tried to tell him we were doing a podcast, I'm not quite sure he would have understood. So I said, hey, my mom and I are in the back room right there that you can see. And we're just trying to get on a meeting call. And so
you didn't even say Zoom?
No, of course not. And I said, so how long do you think you're going to be doing this for? Super nice guy. He's like, oh, well, you caught me at a good time because I think I'm powering down a little bit and I can finish the rest of it tomorrow. So, yeah.
And then he came and knocked on the door. Was nice.
Then he came and knocked on the door to let me know that he had finished and there would be a noticeable absence of noise moving forward.
I just told Daddy, because he's in the room next door, and I said, okay, we're going to start the podcast. So I'm going to close the door.
Yeah.
And because he's watching golf. And he's like, oh, so there won't be any noise. I said, right. So there won't be any background noise.
Right.
Exactly.
Kind of how that works. This is only our 28th time doing it.
Exactly.
I'm happy that we can still educate people. Are you sick? I can't believe it. I can't believe you're going to be sick right now.
Okay. I am not sick.
That you know of.
I feel fine. I do. The last couple of days, we've had some really beautiful blustery fall weather, just where the wind kicks up. We still have lots of leaves scattering around, which is obviously what the neighbor was doing.
Yeah, sucking up all the leaves.
So what I'm going with is, I've got a little bit of a runny nose from the leaves being blown all around.
What did you have a couple days ago? A headache?
I had a headache. But no. I know what kind of headache it was.
Oh, okay. What kind of headache was it?
It was a headache, like a neck headache, like it needed a chiropractic adjustment headache.
Got it.
And so it only lasted one day.
And gave way to what symptoms yesterday?
Sniffles from the bad air.
And now what do we have?
Sniffles, no headache.
How was that cough earlier?
I don't know, but I can taste everything just fine.
Nobody's buying what you're selling right now, lady.
So I want to apologize ahead of time. I have my little box of Kleenex here.
Yep.
From Amanda McHenry's wedding. No ugly crying.
Yep.
But I might have to blow my nose. And I have a Diet Coke, which I don't know what. I just had to have it.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised because...
That I didn't bring you one?
Right. You had to go out this morning, and I really didn't expect you to be back before noon. But then you waltzed in, and not only did you go do your appointment, you went and got a Diet Coke in the same time.
It was right by there.
I could make the argument that buying the Diet Coke actually took longer than your appointment.
Yeah, it might have. So I got the Diet Coke, but then, of course, I have our wild thyme and oregano tea combo with the lemon and honey.
I don't think there's wild thyme in this. This is just the bagged oregano.
No, here's what happened.
Liar.
Here's what happened. I started the tea, and what I do is put one tea bag in each, and then I switch the tea bags. You finished the tea, and you didn't switch.
So I think I have the time.
Okay, I have the oregano.
Yeah. Does that bother you?
Not at all.
Sorry, I didn't know that you had a process in
I had
making
a process,
tea.
yes.
I really didn't have anything to start this cold open. I was just really waiting for the neighbor to finish what he was doing, got kind of wrapped up in that, noticed that you're very symptomatic with a potential cold, which is just come on.
Do you want to put plexiglass in between us?
I feel like I should just be dousing you with Lysol right now. I'm happy that we're at least, I don't know. I mean, I think this is technically a socially distanced podcast. This would be 6 feet, right?
Oh, almost. Could you lay down between us?
I could. I think I could. I think I'd be close.
Unless I really start like hucking and coughing.
Which, if anybody has watched this podcast, happens a lot. If you listen to it, Lord knows how many edits I cut out of hacking and spewing, which now makes me more concerned that hacking and spewing, if that takes case during this episode, we're all getting sick.
Well, you told me to cough before we started.
I did. I'm pretty sure I recorded that on the video feed.
And so I coughed.
Yeah.
But
and you said what?
said that didn't sound like a good cough.
So that sounded like a pretty bad cough.
Yeah. It didn't sound like a just get your throat clear cough.
No.
It sounded like there was a little.
At least there was stuff in it.
Sounded like a little congestion in there, maybe. I'm going with I'm okay until someone calls and tells me.
I will. I know we have talked about this before, and I will just keep reiterating it. It never ceases to amaze me how phlegm builds up in both yours and I's throat. Only when we do this. I've never been conscious about coughing or clearing my throat. Now, maybe it's just because I don't ever have to be conscious about it, because who the hell cares if you're clearing your throat or coughing in your normal life? I swear to God, I watch you and I can now see it coming. I can hear the in my cough. Deb, I can see it coming a mile away. And I'm just like, how is this possible? Are we the only people that struggle with this?
I was on a Zoom the other day.
See, right there. I can hear it right there.
I was on a Zoom the other day. I talked almost the entire Zoom. I never used the throat spray. I never coughed. I never cleared my throat. I don't know what it is. Is it the microphone?
I think it's because we care about the audio.
I thought you were going to say we care about the audience.
Well, I mean, we do care about the audience, but we care about the audio more because it's the mode of communication. And if we're like this and come doing all that kind of stuff, it's not the ideal podcast to listen to.
I care about the audience most.
That's not true.
Oh, that is true.
Well, your voice certainly doesn't depict that.
I would solicit good thoughts and prayers for my voice.
Yeah, it is questionable at best. And we're only like 7 minutes into this thing. We have over an hour left. So Godspeed. Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev Pod. Sitting across from me on this actually very beautiful November Sunday afternoon is my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And I am her son, Kev, and this is our Monday podcast. And hello to all of our YouTube viewers, all of you. What's going on, guys? So good to see you.
Is it 3 or 4?
I'm pretty sure it's about 3,000 at this point. We skyrocketed from last week. We went viral for no apparent reason. So what's up, guys? Deb, as you tried to ruin in the cold open, which I've edited out so nobody heard, this is supposed to be your surgery week.
It is.
Emphasis on supposed to be. Fill in the audience with what has happened and why you may not be having surgery on Thursday.
So I went to the doctor, I think on Tuesday, was it? Monday or Tuesday. And he got a new MRI and new x-rays. And, you know, I've been working with this great guy for 3 years. And
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
My throat, I know. So I've been working with this guy for 3 years. I feel like he knows me and my foot very well. Yeah. And he says, you know, there's a lot of neuropathy in your foot.
And for all of us, I mean, like clearly I know what neuropathy is, but you know, if there's some people listening that don't know what neuropathy is, feel free to tell them what it might be.
Do you want to define it, Kev?
I mean, I could, but I feel like I'm stealing that from you, and I really want this to be your segment.
All right.
Go for it, Deb.
So neuropathy is, it's basically nerve damage.
It's basically nerve damage.
That causes your foot to either tingle or burn or be numb.
Yeah, like there could be like a tingling sensation or a bit like of a dull burn, and in some cases,
numbness.
Yes. Right, exactly. That's what I was going to say, yeah.
So he said, I'm worried because I don't want to do more harm, you know, with the surgery. And I was like, okay, we don't want to do more harm, but I've just committed to Kevin to live for another 30 years.
Yeah.
And am I going to wear this boot for 30 years?
If you wore the boot for 30 years, that would be essentially a third of your life.
I know.
In a boot. You're a robot at that point.
Like, that's not an answer,
You're
right?
a robot.
And the foot's just going to get worse.
Sure.
But I do understand that he wanted to find out the source of the neuropathy. So very quickly, I had to have a series of blood tests. Apparently, vitamin B12 deficiency can cause neuropathy. He asked me if I was a diabetic. I assured him I was not, but I got a blood test just to confirm it.
Because he thought the tests were similar to that of somebody who had diabetes.
Exactly. There was such erosion. He said that part of the bone has just puffed into nothing.
Weird.
So he goes in and he needs bone to attach plates and, rebuild the foot. So then I went and also got an EMG, which is an interesting thing where they jab needles into both of your legs. And then kind of, once it's jabbed in, they kind of go wiggle. I know, it's
Gross.
awful. And then it's like flex your foot and you can hear, like you can actually hear on the machine.
The crunching?
The energy moving through. Yeah, it's really interesting, but it's many, many pokes. Not the end of the world, but it wasn't a fun test.
No.
And so that doctor that did that test was awesome as well. He knows our physical therapist, Sabrina, who we think is a miracle worker.
True.
And so he said, see if Sabrina can work on your foot. I'll tell her exactly what nerve it is. So they spoke, went to see Sabrina.
Yep.
Sabrina worked on my foot and got it so much better in terms of feeling. But I'm still supposed to have a bone density test just to make sure that that's not it.
When's that?
It's not scheduled. They've been called. I've called. Messages have been left, but no one has called back.
But the real crux of this is the doctor who's supposed to do the surgery was hesitant. At best. The neuropathy wasn't great. At some point, you kind of lost sensation in your foot.
I did.
You gained it back through some physical therapy, which you said felt amazing. And then your foot actually lacked pain on one of the nights. So then you left a message for your doctor, which I don't ever go to the doctor. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times in my adult life that I've gone to see a doctor. There's apparently this really cool concept where patients and doctors can communicate over the internet now.
Yeah.
God, just revolutionary. So you left him a message and you just kind of put the ball in his court and were like overly communicative with him, as I'm sure that is a shocker to everybody. And you really emphasized confidence, that you wanted to have confidence, you wanted to be on the same page, and you wanted everybody to feel really good going into this. And he responded in nice, I mean, it's almost like a text message.
It is a text. That's exactly what it is.
That he appreciated the note and that he was going to kind of take the weekend to both celebrate his wife's birthday.
Exactly.
And go over everything so that when he got back with you on Monday, you could have you could see how he felt everything was progressing. So tell us, because I'm just as much in the dark as anybody else, how you feel on Sunday facing the conversation with the doctor on Monday with the potential of surgery, because it's still up to you on Thursday.
Well, I mean, up to him a little bit, because my reaction is totally built off of his reaction.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've had an EKG, I've had a blood test, I've had a COVID test, all for the surgery. Right? That feels like a big investment so far, right? I went and sat in a hospital and did all that. But I am 100%, if he doesn't come ringing through, like, I have got this, don't worry, it's going to be better, you're going to be happy. I mean, I don't mean happy the day after surgery, but you're going to be happy 3 or 4 months from now. I won't do it.
And here's the thing we haven't even mentioned. You had your surgery on the books for about a month.
Right.
Dad just went and got forearm surgery in the matter of a week.
And told us a week ahead of time.
Literally told nobody.
Yeah.
Said, hey, by the way, on this past Monday, I'm going to be having surgery on my forearm. And we're like triple took. What? Huh?
No, actually what I said is, no, I'm getting my surgery.
Right.
And my surgery is more debilitating than your surgery.
Right. So at one point, assuming this goes forward and the doctor feels good and you feel good and you said there's no better time than now to do it, to have the surgery, I will officially become a caretaker. I will be running a hospice-light version.
Yeah. Well, except hopefully nobody's going to die. Hospice is 6 months
I
away
get
from
that.
death.
But listen, with what Dad's been going through with his arm wrapped the way it's wrapped and you just bedridden, this is a version of hospice. Now, I say this.
Not real hospice, though.
I mean, come on. I say this. I for 36 years, I have not had to take care of you and Dad in any capacity whatsoever besides teaching you some technology on the computer.
I just have to say, this is the one time people should watch this on YouTube right now for your facial expressions.
I am so willing and able to help in whatever way possible because, Dad has his surgery.
Mm-hmm.
he also just still has the effects of chemo brain and just being insane in general. You're going to, if you have the surgery, just be in bed until you have to like make a concerted effort to come downstairs, which again, then you're downstairs for a prolonged period of time and you won't be moving.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, let's do it. But one of the side effects is I looked at you the other day and I said, we have to have a plan. We have to be regimented in what we're doing because this thing can spiral on us fast and we can be at each other's throats in a nanosecond if it's like, oh, well, you know, Dad's just wandering around doing whatever. And Mom's lollygagging on her crutches, sending me out to Costco for the 15th time today.
Wait a minute, though. So Daddy had surgery was on Monday.
Yeah,
right?
less than a week ago.
So we happen to know that surgeon pretty well.
Well, yeah, I went to school with him.
Which seems weird that somebody you went to school with is allowed to cut on anybody.
Side note, and I won't mention his name. I can remember he was a basketball player with me. He was tall. And so in middle school, one of the cool things was to like jump and touch the rim. Like, oh my God, if you could touch the rim and grab the rim, like, oh, you might as well be Michael Jordan, especially if you're white and from Reno, Nevada. I can remember he went up and he grabbed the rim and I was like, oh my God, but his momentum kept him going forward. His legs kind of came out from under him and then he let go I think on instinct and he went flat back on the floor, just knocked all the wind out of him. And it went from being the coolest thing I had seen at 13 years old to assuming my friend had just died in front of me.
Well, you know, I guess after that experience, he decided I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's better than a future in basketball.
Right. I mean, I'm just doing a podcast with my mom, so I could make the argument that his life turned out a little better.
Yeah, his life turned out a little better. So he called me after the surgery and, you know, I went and picked up Dad because, you know, they won't let you in, you know, right now. And he said to me, he's having a little trouble with pain. So I've called in some Percocet to Costco. And he said he needs to take it easy. He should go home and go to bed, and that arm needs to be elevated.
Right.
And I said, okay. So Dad was a little belligerent in the picking him up.
On edge.
And the gal had said we're having a little trouble getting his pain under control. And of course, he was super sweet with her, right?
Sure.
And then would turn at me and I'd go, do you want me to help you with that? No.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like it was, but you know, he'd just come out of surgery. I mean.
Sure. And then he proceeded to come home. You went to go get his prescriptions.
I might have said, as the girl said, go get the car and pull up, told me where to pull up. He like said something and I might have turned and said to the girl, if it looks like he's going to die, just text me and you keep him.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. She started laughing. So got the Percocet. And I remember being nervous giving it to Dad because Dad does not react to meds.
No. You're cutting the middle out. So you go to Costco, and we're going to wind this up. We don't need to be talking this.
You're going to edit some stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to spend 20 minutes talking about all the physical ailments the Zeners are currently struggling with. But you went to Costco, and the doctor said, sit, lay down, elevate the arm, do nothing. Sit, lay down, elevate the arm, do nothing.
Yep.
I was upstairs, door open. The entire time you were gone, for the better part of an hour, he didn't stop moving. I heard doors opening. I heard doors closing. I heard cabinets opening. I heard cabinets closing. I heard him walking. I heard the dogs trailing behind him. I heard him on his phone. He was the most active human being I have ever seen in the span of an hour, just outright refusing to do anything the doctor or nurses said. Right.
There was some belligerence. And then, of course, he said to me, I said, I'm going to run and get the prescription because I want you to have it before the next 4 hours.
Which is code for Deb needed some personal time.
Exactly. But then he said, of all things, when you're out, go get me a Sonic burger.
Yeah. Wild. We've never had Sonic burger in this house.
I mean, and so a new Sonic burger. Your friend here owns Sonic Burger in Northern Nevada.
Very, very liberal use of the term friend.
But went to the new Sonic Burger, which, by the way, we had to drive by to come home from the hospital. Right. So it would have been nice if there had been a nod to Sonic Burger then.
Sure.
But I drove back south, got the Sonic Burger, got the prescription. it was even worse after I gave him the next Percocet.
Yeah.
Like he would not sit down.
Because he doesn't respond to drugs the way most normal
Right.
people do. If you and I took a Percocet, I would have melted into the
Right.
couch.
Right.
I can remember, I think when I had my wisdom teeth out, maybe it was Valium or maybe it was Percocet. There was a horse tablet because I felt so bad. Because I felt all the surgery was happening. Story for another day. But I can remember at the point after like 3 or 4, I just thought to myself, well, whenever I take these, I go to sleep for 8 hours.
Exactly.
So that's what this is going to be. Him. He's like a crack addict. He just is like he's like a cockroach scurrying from everywhere to everywhere.
It was awful. And he was a little, I'm not going to lie. And he ended up apologizing the next day because he was like obnoxious.
Totally.
And I mean, we could see that it was being driven by the Percocet and the pain. But I did say too, as I'm taking the Percocet from the pharmacist, I said, he said, has he taken these before? I said, I don't know. But I mean, he doesn't react, and he goes, no. He'll want to lay down with this. And I'm like, I don't know.
Have you ever met our dad?
So then I said, am I going to kill him if I give him a Xanax too? Because he has a prescription of Xanax.
Just layering drugs at this point.
Exactly. And the pharmacist said, no. You can give him the Xanax. So when I went home, it was a Xanax and it was a Percocet. And Sonic Burger gave him everything.
I believe you called and said, do you want anything? And in that moment, I was just like, tater tots.
Exactly. I bought tons of tater tots. And he wolfed down the Sonic Burger and the tater tots.
Of course he
did. He just wolfed it down. And then we got him to bed, and thank God he slept. And then he felt bad the next day because he said, I can't take those.
And that segment was brought to you by WebMD. WebMD, when you want to scare yourself. Oh my gosh. So
we just must sound
you guys,
horrible.
You criticized me for using the word hospice. And after having heard these stories, I think I might be a little closer than you initially thought.
Yeah.
So we will, when we record on Wednesday for our Thursday episode, we will let everybody know what you decided to do.
Yeah.
So make sure you listen to the Thursday episode because we will tell you whether or not Deb went through with the surgery. And if she did, the amount of content and hijinks that are going to come from that will be endless.
The peg leg alone.
Ugh, the peg leg alone. I have yet to record anything simply out of love and respect to you. But if you start rocking that thing, phone's coming out.
It's going to go. For businesses, it's tough right now. I mean, there is no question. Larger businesses probably have it a little bit easier because they have more people to fill in, more people to cover, more people to take charge. A lot of large businesses as well are still working remotely. So if somebody does get COVID, if they're not really sick, they're still at home doing whatever they're going to do, right?
Yep.
Probably this advice would be good for anybody, but I'm gearing it more towards small businesses. And, when you have, I'm just going to say 15 people or less, 20 people or less, and 1 or 2 end up with COVID, it ends up making a big difference.
Sure.
And especially if it's in a business where people need to actually show up there, right? And then when we add the fact that, like we talked this morning, I mean, I feel like I have the little beginning of a cold is what I have.
I just had a friend text me in the middle of this podcast saying they just tested positive. So
Is that true?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So then you end up, if you've gone to work because you just thought it was a cold, you have exposed everybody,
Correct.
So I do think that small business owners have to look at every scenario possible, like if the worst scenario would be somebody got COVID in my office and they were here, right? I mean, they spent some time in the office with the other employees when they didn't know they had it, right? That would be the worst scenario. And I think in most scenarios, that's the one where, people feel like they have to shut it down for a couple of weeks.
Sure.
I'm not recommending that necessarily. I'm just saying I think that's where most business owners feel like that.
I want to preface this by saying you, Deb, are going to toe the line in every conceivable way as it comes to COVID, while acknowledging the public safety element, while simultaneously being beholden to the fact that people need to make money. So you're trying to, thread the needle in the most appropriate way without alienating either side of the argument, because I don't think you believe that a full-blown shutdown, unless this thing just gets wholly out of control,
right.
is the exact answer. And I know you don't believe doing business as usual is the answer as well. So this is like a very tenuous time to properly navigate what it means to be a business owner right now.
Well, exactly. And every business owner, what I would say if I had, tons of business owners sitting in front of me, at the end of the day, they have to do what they think is ethical and responsible. So 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago now, one of my clients called and said somebody in their office had tested positive for COVID. And I said, what are you guys going to do? And, the immediate answer was everybody go get tested,
Sure.
right? And of course, we know, like, depending on where you are in the incubation period, you may or may not test positive. This was a wealth management group. They can shut the doors a little bit easier because they can route the phones and the scheduling to somebody's house. They can actually do Zoom calls, from their houses. I think most of their clients, I talked to, one of the managers, and he said everybody was really grateful when we called and said, this is what we've done,
Right.
but we'll still have your appointment either by phone, or by Zoom. So in that case, it's the kind of business where I think the patrons still feel like they really have access, right?
Right.
A lot of businesses are not that way. I mean, certainly medical. I had last Monday morning, my phone blew up because, we had talked before about we only knew 2 people that had gotten COVID in the first round of COVID.
Correct.
And, one of them was in another country. So we didn't really know people. We knew it was happening, of course, but it has now infiltrated everybody's circle for sure.
Yep.
And, everybody was like, do I see patients? Do I not see patients? And really the first question I asked were you exposed? Was somebody else in your office exposed? I've had people do everything from call their county or call their health department. As soon as you do that, you open yourself up to, I'm just going to say the knowing. I'm not saying
Sure.
not to do it, but once then you've really put it out there. If you call and say
The government is going to shut you down.
well, the government's going to make a recommendation, and then possibly somebody's going to drive by.
Correct.
Right. So in that case, if you choose to do that, then I think you have to err on the most conservative side. And in this case, they're closing for 2 weeks.
Right.
And not seeing any patients at all. And their business is really about seeing patients.
Right.
So it's not like the wealth management firm. They're not still making money and everything is still fine.
Where everybody
right?
can be remote and still access the documents and the data.
Because nobody wants to even be on the other side of plexiglass from a person that is tested positive for COVID.
Right.
And, then the problem comes where that first person tested positive. Now, is this really going to go on for 3 or 4 weeks because everybody else in the office? So I think you have to, the one thing that I'm recommending that everybody does is that they play out these scenarios ahead of time. That is the most important thing that they do, because if you don't, you will be caught so off guard and it will become so emotional. It will be so frustrating. And it really is a game of chess. Who goes here? Who does what? So if somebody called in, for instance, and said, I took last week off. I was out of the office. I had some days off. I don't feel good. I'm not coming in. I'm going to get tested, right? Like, you're pretty clear that you can continue doing business as normal because none of you were exposed to them in the last 7 days, right? So that works. But if that person went on vacation, did all that, didn't feel great, and just happened to come to work Monday morning with that little headache, you've been exposed.
Right.
And so I really do think it's like, play out every single scenario. I think restaurants are going to have a really tough time. In fact, there was an article, I think it was in the New York Times, and COVID swept through a restaurant, and the hairdressers next door went in and started helping, because nobody could come to work.
Oh, wow.
And started helping them get out, to-go food and stuff like that so they could keep operating. So I know in every business, people know people that could come and help. It wouldn't be perfect, but they could come and help. So if it were a situation, for instance, where really the rest of the staff wasn't exposed and you really do need that body, then it becomes of like, who can I get to come in here for 2 weeks to help, supplement some of the minor things that we would normally do.
So you would say, as a business owner, one of the things that you should be doing before COVID comes knocking on your door is have potential backups already lined up that you can call the very next day after somebody says, hey, I tested positive, that you know that they can be there in your business within 48 to 72 hours.
Right. So, for instance, you and I are not equipped to go answer anybody. We don't know someone else's phone system. For instance, we don't know how they answer the phone, and we don't know necessarily their scheduling system. But we're both smart enough that we could probably figure that part out with a little bit of training within, I'm going to say, an hour, right? Where we could...
Maybe. Sure, maybe.
Where we could greet a patient, where we could answer a phone, and at least get them on the schedule in that example. Or for a restaurant, where we could answer the phone and take the order and at least get the order to the person, and ring it up. I mean, we all have some capabilities of stuff like that. If you can do it without the person, that's great. But if you really can't, have somebody lined up in your mind, that could come and help you and that would have a willingness to do it. And if I were a business owner, I'd go down every rabbit hole. What happens if I get sick? What happens if Susie gets sick? What happens if John gets sick? I mean, go through it all. Do you mean all the different components of your business? And what am I going to do if that happens? And then you kind of have to play it out. What happens if 2 or 3 of them, if it really runs through the business? At what point are you going to call it? Right? Because that's the part that really matters. At what point are you going to call it? And I think that the biggest gift you can give yourself is to play that all out. And I really mean on paper, play that all out, and then discuss that plan with all of your people so they know how to execute, when it actually happens, because we've talked about every possible scenario. I think the other part of it is you've got to, right now, I know that there's a lot of people that have gotten a little lax with their businesses, and I've just noticed it within grocery stores. Like in the beginning, nobody let you go up to check out your groceries without spraying everything. They've quit doing that now. Now it's just probably masks, and people have sanitizers everywhere. So I do think that businesses, when the news is just pelting us with information about COVID spiking, I think it's really important for them to up the cleanliness feature again, and not just for optics, but for really, to make people be safe. To own a plexiglass company right now, right? I mean, if you've been hesitant to do any of that, this would be the time to do it so you can continue to be in business, right? And I just genuinely think you have to look at the CARES Act. There's stuff that you have to do for your employees. Every employee gets at least 2 weeks paid to either for their own sick time because of COVID, or to take care of somebody else that has COVID, but no more than 2 weeks. And so then people need to look at their vacation and look at their sick pay and see what kind of thing is available to them. So I think if you really, which I think today is kind of scary, because the what if on that with your business potentially not bringing income in, right? I mean, I think it's super scary, but I also think that people have been remarkably innovative during this entire time. And I think we're going to stretch the bounds of that, where when this is all over, we would say, oh my God, I never dreamed. And look what we came up with. Right?
I think that is my biggest takeaway. And I know I mentioned it, or maybe I haven't, in San Francisco, and everybody can make fun of San Francisco, but the restaurants, in conjunction with the city government, they suspended some parking on the streets so that the restaurants could put food stalls where the parking spots normally were. So now people are outdoors. They're still separated 6 feet, but the space that you lost inside is now coming back in the form of being outside. So when you walk down the streets, it's super duper cool to see all these food stalls open. And it's a form of marketing for the restaurant, because you get to now literally see people's food, and it feels somewhat normal. And my I guess takeaway from this would be, it's not a black or white issue. COVID literally exists in the gray, and it is your job as a business owner, with the help of friends, with the help of family, with the help of other people in your industry, to find out how you can be safe while still operating and generating an income. because the answer isn't, I just want to conduct business as usual. That's not happening anytime soon. So that needs to be over and done with. That no longer exists until the vaccine is disseminated and you take it or feel comfortable taking it. And you don't have to shut down unless you have just a wealth of money behind you that you can, extract from. But really, this should be I know it's not fun because I know it's worrisome, but this should be the opportunity for you to iterate and reiterate the way you do business. You need to feel comfortable redefining your business, because I think it's going to benefit you long term to think that you got through this the way you did, and you've now set your business on a totally different trajectory had 2020 not happened.
100%. And to give you an example in medical, if I would have said to some of these medical people, hey, you're going to put a permanent sign on a parking space that says curbside patient care, right? Where your people will run out and take care of people literally in their car. I mean, people would have thought it was bonkers, completely crazy, and yet now they're doing it. I mean, doctors have put drop boxes in front of their offices for people to drop things in, and that they can take care of them without people actually, seeing one another. I mean, I'm sure there are restaurants that were pretty much eat-in only that have said they never dreamed their capacity to produce a good product to go the way they've done it, the way they've punted, and probably changed the menus because they want the quality of the food to still be good, right? I think it is, an incredible time of innovation. And I think technology opportunities have grown through all of this. I mean, we say Zoom now. We use it as a verb. We use it as a noun. And elderly patients have gotten comfortable, getting on a Zoom and talking to their doctors, right? Or talking to their wealth managers or talking to whoever it is they need to. So there was this super fast learning thing that happened. We talked about early on with COVID, people that still didn't really purchase online. Well, I don't know who those people are anymore.
Right.
I mean, everybody has, at the point that you order toilet paper online, you're purchasing a lot of different things.
Well, we ordered toilet paper online and are still suffering from it.
We still are. And it may not be apocalyptic now, but I'm not buying good toilet paper. This is gone. Fair. So I just do want to mention that the leaf blower is going again.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. I'm slowly stewing in broth of my own rage right now.
I guess he thinks the meeting's over, right?
I mean, he literally came to the front door and was like, hey, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
How long is this dude's day?
Yeah.
Solid 53 minutes at this point. Mm-hmm. So we apologize. It's a nice dull hum, hopefully in the background, and not taking away from all this phenomenal content we're generating.
So the other part, I think, for business owners is the only other thing you can do if revenue is not coming in is to cut your expenses as much as humanly possible. And I want to say cut your expenses without disheartening or hurting the enthusiasm that your employees have for your business, right? But I know I've talked to many people that have said personally and professionally, they're actually keeping their heads above water because they've driven their expenses down so much, right? We're not doing all the things we normally did.
Yep.
And so I do think to constantly be looking at the expense piece of it. And then I think I'm hoping that there are some new, I'm just going to say federal funding things that are going out there that can help people, because I think that we're probably due for the second round of something like that, and look at it. If you need it, apply for it. If it's the thing that's going to keep your business alive so that you can flourish down the road, then do it, But I just think you have to be prepared. You cannot sit in a little bubble and think this is not going to touch you, because probably this week, and I could add them up with your group, but probably this week, I've gotten 15 or 20 texts from all over the United States of where people, somebody tested positive, and what do we do now? What's the game we play? And I know even in your friend group, everybody was living the same work from home kind of thing, and it popped up within your group.
Right.
So
yeah, it's clearly here. The thing we were trying to avoid in March has now come in November and October. And so there's no need to dwell on the sadness of it. You can certainly do that in your own time. But if you're a business owner, the only thing that you should be concentrating on now is, how do I function to the best of my ability with the full maximization of my business in my industry while still trying to be safe.
Right. And I do think when you talk to your employees about this and when you include them in the plan and when you solicit their input, I think it just calms everybody. Because if I'm an employee and I just think like, I mean, gosh, if this happens 2 or 3 times, then if it's 2 weeks every single time, what's going to happen to me?
Right.
To have that conversation ahead of time works way better.
Okay. I think that's wonderful. I think it's a really hard conversation to have. And I think it's probably even more difficult to come up with real solutions. But I think if this is the framework with how you operate, you know your industry better than almost anybody, the proverbial you. And you're skilled. And if your business is successful prior to this, it can still be successful during this. It's just on you to get outside the box of norm. That's it.
I mean, there should be no barriers to the what if rabbit holes you go down. What if I did this? Would my clients participate, basically, right? What if I did that? I mean, and I know some of it sounds crazy, but don't just dispel it because it sounds new. I mean, really think about it for a while, like, how could it work?
Right.
And
or even just try it. Who cares if it sounds crazy?
And I do think I appreciate, I mean, when I see businesses really kind of go out of the box, if you will, to just genuinely still offer their services. And I want to say to everybody out there who is healthy and well, support these businesses. I mean, they still need our support.
Totally.
We want them to be there when this is all over.
Okay. Here's my 1-minute hypothetical to you.
Okay.
Transport yourself back, was it 10 years now, to owning the restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay. But then take this restaurant and transport it 10 years to 2020.
Oh.
So you're a restaurant owner.
Yeah.
If we keep the numbers the same, we probably have anywhere between 12 to 15 employees.
Yeah.
3 of them test positive. We have very little outdoor seating, though some exists. And the space inside is fairly boxy, so it's easy to spread people out. As the owner of the restaurant, facing this need to iterate and reiterate and change, and that this tsunami of a third wave is coming, how would you function today?
So the first part of your little story there, did you actually give somebody in my employee COVID?
I gave 2 or 3 of them COVID.
But were they actually ever in the restaurant that we knew they had COVID in the restaurant?
We'll say one had COVID-like symptoms. They came in, you saw them and said, leave.
Okay. So the good thing about having assorted employees is, and especially in the restaurant business, they don't normally all work the same days.
True.
So more than likely, there's a portion of the staff that was not there that day. And especially in our restaurant, I'm thinking about it, in our restaurant, the kitchen was way in the back of the house.
Correct.
So if somebody literally walked in and I told them to walk out, then, I mean, I was exposed, but the kitchen was not exposed, right? I probably would, I mean, myself included, if I was the one, I probably would take the staff from that day, I'm going to say excluding this kitchen staff, and say, everybody go get tested. I mean, testing here, I know some tests you can get really, really fast in some areas. Testing here is about 3 days.
Right.
So I would have everybody go get tested and then, of course, watch for symptoms, right? That means the other group is probably going to have to double shift it a little bit, right?
Right.
We had a rather decent patio.
Have you started? By the way, you just launched.
I'm still asking questions.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So-
Langling story. So ask questions then within the framework. I know it's been a while since we've played this game,
I know,
but you clearly cheated.
I just kind of went. Okay. So
You tell me when you're starting.
Was I within 6 feet of the person?
For sure.
Okay. Did the person willingly go and agree to go get a COVID test?
Totally.
How many employees were in the shop that day?
We'll say that they were working the mid-morning shift, so there would have been 1 chef and 2 people behind the counter.
Okay.
So really just 3, and you, 4.
Yep. I probably would have gotten okay, go 1 minute.
Let's go.
I would have gotten on the phone and called other people in and gotten us out. And I would have literally had the shop sprayed and everything before anybody else went back in, have a second shift come in and take over. The rest of us would have left and we would have either quarantined or gotten a test, to show that we were negative. I probably would have, we had 2 great doors for cross ventilation. Mm-hmm. They would have been open. Everything, of course, would have been cleaned down. And we probably would have, for the moment, really used the patio. And I'm going to say the little area out front in front of the parking.
Oh, yeah.
We would have put tables out there as well, because now I'm going to really try to move people out.
Sure.
And then I am probably going to pump through social media, specials that are available for delivery. I'm going to make them sound like they're only available for delivery or pickup, that kind of thing. And then we'll deliver to your car. There is that point where you want
1 minute.
You want to make sure that people feel safe coming in your environment.
I like the one thing that you said is you're going to kind of create a new category, which is food only available for delivery or pickup.
Yep.
I mean, that's not novel, but if there are certain products or there's new products that you want to try out where you say, this doesn't exist within the restaurant, you can only buy this if it's a to-go order. I think that's great because that establishes that not only can you get a really good product, but that you don't have to be here.
So one of the things that restaurants, as we know, do, whether they have soup of the day, sandwich of the day, whatever the special is for a dinner house, they often, read us their specials, right?
Yep.
When we go in. We had all of those things as well. But here's the thing. Restaurant owners and chefs know some things transport really well in a to-go container and some things don't.
Soup.
So, soup transports really well. Yeah. French fries, we've all gotten limp French fries, when we've gotten home. But I would really design the to-go menu and have it be like a special for things that I know if it has to sit in their car for 20 minutes before they get home to eat it, they're going to open it up and still love it. Brilliant. So that's what I would concentrate on.
Absolutely brilliant. If you guys are business owners and you have questions and you think we might be able to help you, shoot us them. We would love nothing more than to talk about them on air and help you get through this crazy time. Deb and I have said this 1,000 times over. This would be the funnest show in the world if people just submitted questions to us. And so to you, we offer that again. If there's any questions about life, about COVID, about ownership of a business, let us know.
And
let
we'll
us help.
About it.
Totally.
We'll talk about it.
Deb, what we are watching. Mm-hmm. Last time we talked about The Vow, which was a great docuseries about a cult. Yeah. And we talked about The Queen's Gambit, which was a great miniseries about a 1960s genius chess player.
Right. And we loved both.
What we're watching now is out of almost as much anger as I feel towards the neighbor right now.
Because it's still going.
Because it's still going, and I don't understand how this sweet, nice gentleman whose cheeks I want to pinch because he's so cute started doing the thing that we asked him not to do. Yeah. It's a Netflix show, an English show called Interior Design Masters. Let me say that one more time for you. Interior Design Masters. Now, usually when somebody says masters to me, it's like showing great skill or proficiency. You're at the top of your game. Top Chef Masters is like all the chefs who are literally the greatest chefs we know would pay hundreds of, if not thousands of dollars to eat from. So when I see a show that says Interior Design Masters, I'm like, yeah, let's watch that. I love interior design. I love the idea that a blank canvas can be turned into this like whimsical living room, or, I follow so many kitchen remodel sites on Instagram. I love it. The going from nothing to something to me is just like why I probably love doing laundry. I don't know.
Something horribly dated that then is transformed, into something new and modern.
Agreed.
Is incredible. But this is not
these masters are some BS.
Yeah, for sure.
We turned it on because we had nothing else to watch. Nothing. It was, I think we started watching on Thursday. We finished it last night. Not because it's good, because it's so bad.
It's so easy to hate.
All these people have other jobs.
Yeah.
They're not even real interior designers, let alone masters.
Go through the jobs.
Well, I just know the two off the top of my head is one's a cafe barista. The other one's a social worker.
Yep.
I think some of the other ones like are aspiring designers or have like their own like little boutique interior.
Well,
they're not real designers.
One was a graphic artist. So Nikki, she came with, remember which one?
Yeah,
is?
but that's still not an interior designer.
No, you're right. One was an antiques dealer.
Exactly, sure.
I mean, I've got to believe she's at least staging antiques, right?
In theory, because we all know antique stores are
if she
super
has a
duper
shop.
not cluttered.
If she has a shop, yeah. So it was, and we hated some people right away.
I hated all of them right away.
I didn't hate all of them. But
I hated the host. I hated
the host.
I hated the premise of the show. Like, come sit on my couch while I stand and loom over you
if
in
you
judgment.
end up on the couch, you're getting voted off the island.
I don't understand shows like this where they give you this brief, as the British would say. They say, here's this brief, and we want you to create this. And you have 12 minutes. And it's not really 12 minutes. It's like 2 days. But it's like, we want you to take this blank canvas of an entire home and in unison with these people who you've never met. We want you to do this, and this. The things that might take people 4 months, I want you to do it in 48 hours.
I think you just switched to Australian there.
No way, that was totally English. Get out of here. And like, if what you're trying to do is tell us that these people are really good at their jobs, give them a certain amount of time. Nothing ever looked good.
No, the 2 days was never enough.
Can you look back on this show, and I think there's like 10 episodes, and think of anything that stood out where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to try to do something like that?
So out of the whole show, the only rooms that I genuinely liked the whole room was towards the end, the country cottage with that fake little pond thing that they called a lake.
Yeah.
The guest bedrooms that the two girls did,
where the white sheer curtains look lavender to me.
Yeah, both of those bedrooms. They had two bedrooms. Both of those bedrooms looked good to me. Like, and I could live in those bedrooms, right, the way they were. That's it. I mean, there was nothing else. I could pick apart almost everything that everybody did.
God awful.
Yeah.
And these people, they were brought into people's place of business. They were brought into restaurants.
Yep.
They were brought into barbershops. Like, people had to conduct business after this, and stuff was like 80% done.
Oh, this show is redoing some stuff for people.
Sure. Like the budget you're having to give to these people to finish the room is what you should have given these designers so that it could have been finished.
Yeah. So, and the designers, like there's one whose accent we could never figure out. She's clearly not British.
And she cried
all the time.
Time.
She cried when she lost. She cried if she was frustrated. She cried if she won. She just cried all the time.
I think she was just crying in between doing her jobs because it was so emotional.
I just kept saying to you, "Where is she from?"
And her name was super inappropriate. It was Jew.
J-U.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like, come on, change your name. It's 2020.
Yeah. And then there were just a couple. I mean, one person in particular, Frank, who was so mean, that's so arrogant.
And that's the other thing. They were all so bad that I think at some point the production team was like, well, we have to keep him because he's just a dick.
Yeah.
He's so
awful.
mean to everybody, and he refuses to work with anybody. He was supposed to redo a barbershop, and for whatever reason, the barbershop's name was Jelly Beans. Right?
That was weird.
So he put jelly bean decals in the front window so it looked like a candy shop.
Store when you walked by.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy, some of the stuff they did. And I felt like they had some real professionals come in, and judge them.
I'm assuming they're professionals. I haven't kept up on my British interior design weekly.
But it looked like from magazine covers and shots we saw that these people were real professionals.
Sure.
But,
I mean, sure.
Kevin.
How can you know?
I don't know. But even their remarks
Oh my God.
were like ridiculous.
Listen, you and I know when Prue and Paul are trying to find the good in something. That's what this show was these people desperately trying to find the good in anything.
Right, for sure. So we had to finish it because we hated it so much. But then here's what happens. In the beginning, we're kind of watching it, and I'm like, God, Frank is really a jerk, like on day one, right? Episode 1.
I don't even think you would have said, he's kind of difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of an edge to him.
By the end, we are hardly
F
watching.
you, Frank.
We're just literally
F you, get off my TV.
TV.
I know I can turn this off, but I can't.
That person can't win. That would be the most ridiculous thing in the world.
I don't care that you're crying, Jew. Change your name. I'm sure that you have some harshness in your life, but get out of here.
I know. It was crazy.
So bad.
So it's if you need a show.
Highly recommend.
If you need a show to take all your aggression out on, this is it.
It sucks so bad.
Or
it's such a bad show.
Just know this. We have watched a terrible show for you and eliminated it from your menu of things to watch, right?
Interior design masters. Good God.
Yeah, it's bad.
So bad.
There's not going to be a season 2.
Watch. And I'm going to watch it if there is. Deb, as we wind down.
Yes.
There's so much to be thankful for in this world.
There is.
What are you thankful for this week?
So the thing that I was thankful for started out to be kind of like because, I've put a lot of energy into this foot and this surgery.
Sure.
And when I was with the orthopedic surgeon and he was kind of like, I don't know about this, when my mind, was so ready for it. I think initially I was like, I've got to prove to him that I, can do this. But I think now that I've sat with it for a while, I'm just really grateful that he was honest.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him more than ever because I mean, he could just go ahead and say, I know how to do this surgery. I make a ton of money off of it if he does, right? I mean, let's get her going and boom, boom. And he really treated me like he was concerned for me. And so I'm really grateful that maybe I'm not going to get surgery this week. Maybe I am. We'll see what his reaction is. But I'm grateful that he was honest and transparent. And I did say to him, the most important thing to me was a bulk of information, that we both would have, and transparency between the two of us, because I wanted both of us to be 100% confident going into it. And if he didn't feel that way, then I'm really happy that he told me.
That's great. Mine kind of piggybacks off of that too, where, I had said earlier in the pod that for 36 years, I have not had to really do anything to take care of you and Dad, besides, get you a Slurpee when you're sick or, pick you up after Dad had the umpteenth surgery or something like that. So when it became clear that there might be some overlapping invalidness, I just had that moment of clarity where I thought, you have lived your entire life without having to truly take care of your parents. And Lord knows we can count on multiple hands, people that had to very early on. And so when I was faced with that, I just thought to myself, like, okay, your card's being punched, your name's being called. And if what you have to do is, help your dad drive somewhere or be a human crutch to your mom so she can get down the stairs or, bring her up some chicken broth or whatever, I thought to myself, like, well, that's worth it. I mean, I'm so far in the black in regards of, helping you and Dad that I feel like I have an endless supply of that. Should that arise. And now you're telling me that might not even be the case. So,
well, sweetie, that is super nice to hear. I mean, honestly, I wish that weren't the situation for you, but I'm grateful that, that's your attitude right now.
Now.
I do know you well enough to be able to say that if I do have the surgery, and especially with Daddy having his surgery, like, you're going to yell at one of us, sooner or later.
I mean,
like, it's going to happen.
If the surgery is planned, we are going as a family to sit down and talk about expectations and how we're all going to contribute to this household in our own ways.
So Kevin was brought up in a really loving, supportive, like, just encouraging fashion. And Kevin is tough. He's a taskmaster. He likes things a certain way.
For sure.
So I don't know. I want to get that loving. I want to get that thing that I put out there.
I told you this.
Yeah.
I want nothing more than for this to be smooth sailing for all of us.
Yeah.
We just need to all be on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of room for going rogue here.
Well, you did say it was super funny because you said we knew Thanksgiving was basically the week right after if I have the surgery on Thursday. And you said, it'll be no big deal. We'll just get you to a chair. You can help chop stuff.
Yep.
And when I was in the doctor's office on Monday, which I haven't told you yet,
I'm going to just bring vegetables up to your bedroom at this point.
The nurse said, for the first several weeks, we want that leg elevated all the time. And I'm sitting there thinking like, how do I sit at the kitchen bar, let's say, and chop onions with my leg elevated above my heart?
I'll just bring you a cutting board and you can chop potatoes on your chest. Your bed.
Okay, there we go.
All right, Deb, as we wind down, what's for dinner?
So I think tonight I'm going to make, because it is a little blustery.
It is.
I think I'm going to make a good chicken stew.
Oh.
Maybe with some cornbread or something.
Cornbread, gluten-free cornbread?
Gluten-free cornbread.
Or maybe biscuits.
Which would you like? Like a little cheddar biscuit?
Sure.
Gluten-free?
Sounds great to me.
Let's do that.
Chicken stew, cheddar bay biscuits.
Yeah. Good.
Nobody cleaning leaves.
He's
while you
still
do it.
cleaning.
It's
them.
unbelievable.
Yeah, he's still
I mean, at
doing
this
it.
point, like,
Yeah.
and here's the problem. I want to rage out. I want to open this window and scream, but he's so nice.
Well, but here's the other part. That backyard hasn't been cleaned up in 10 years.
Ever.
So he's got his work in front of him if he's really going to do it.
Right.
This will be happening tomorrow
Like
as well.
this is an act of selflessness, and all I want to do is murder him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to murder him, but that's all I want to do.
Yeah,
in this
I get
moment.
it.
Anything else
No, I think we're good.
before I go to jail for the rest of my life?
I think we're good.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us on this Monday episode of the Deb and Kev podcast. Make sure you follow us on all of our social channels. If you feel compelled to watch this, find us on our YouTube channel at Deb and Kev Pod, and rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Mom, I love you.
I love you, baby.
Guys, we will see you on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter at Deb and Kev Pod.